Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate prose. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. All right, we are recording, which means we are live, which means if you're here, thank you very much. And if you're listening, thank you very much. An amazing guest, Jennifer Bell, with us this evening. We'll let her say hi and introduce herself here shortly. Before that, just wanted to go through our sponsors as usual. And once again, just put it out there that these conversations go such a long way. We've had a ton of great feedback, Jen, leading up to this one. A ton of great feedback back and forth with you, having been on as a co-host or a host on this in the past. And a lot of people reaching out, just looking forward to the stories and connecting with the information. So session 98, First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast, brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, Benchmark Athletics, and in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. Jennifer Bell is a graduate from Laurentian University, Human Kinetics, specializing in health promotions. Upon graduation, she attended the athletic therapy program at York University and has been a certified athletic therapist for the past 16 years. She has numerous continuing education courses that she has in her back pocket, and she implements these in her practice and has just completed her master's in human kinetics. On top of her work as an athletic therapist, she also sits on several committees, both provincially and nationally, which we will definitely touch on as we go through. Jennifer is the head athletic therapist and director of rehabilitative services at the Hill Academy. Prior to starting at the Hill, Jennifer was the head athletic therapist at Humber College for 14 years. She has also had the honor of working with our national under-19 lacrosse programs, including winning the World Championships in 2015 and our national artistic swimming program. Away from work, Jennifer is a busy mom to 3 young children who enjoy participating in sports and activities themselves. So there isn't much time to catch up for you. So we truly appreciate you carving this into an evening. Hopefully the kids are in bed or taken care of, and away we go, and we can jump into your amazing story. Appreciate you being here as always, and your time.
Well, thanks for having me, James. And the kids are definitely in bed because it's 9 o'clock Ontario time. So thankfully.
That's right. Yeah. We're going back and forth on this. The time change is a tough one, but hey, 9 o'clock, good time for us, good time to go. And you're at the Hill now, but I don't want to start there. I want to sort of, if you're okay with it, eventually build to that crescendo of what that is and how that works and where that may go in the future as well. A massive career in terms of impacting myself, impacting those around you, and maybe with the board and the provincial body, the governing bodies, both provincially and nationally, that you serve on, roles with those and how you got involved, wherever you want to take it. But I think this is this day and age, it's critical to have people on that are invested not only in their practice personally or professionally, but in the practice as a whole as professionals. So wherever you want to take that.
Yeah. So I guess I would say I started I started with the Ontario Athletic Therapists Association. I had been certified, I would say, for maybe about 5 years, and I was looking to start giving back. That was something I did both during my undergrad at Laurentian, and then again when I was a therapy student at York. And so I wanted to give back to the profession, as well as have a voice. And so I got involved with the OATA first helping with kind of their golf tournament, creating sponsorship packages, events, different things like that. And then moved over to the education side, where I assisted in facilitating the candidate prep program for quite a few years. We hosted that at Humber, and I helped coordinate that. And I enjoyed that work, but I wanted to do something that had, I guess you would say, more of a role. And so I applied with one of the CATA call for volunteers. I applied for the education committee, and was accepted to be on what originally was the education committee.
Right.
And I started, I guess, in a liaison role, because back then that's going back to like 2009 when I started with them. There was actually a separate conference committee. So I was kind of a liaison between the conference committee, between education, a liaison with a number of other committees. And then that role morphed into being the conference curriculum director. And then from there, I stepped up into the chair role. And then the education committee turned into the education and research committee. And
Right.
so it's kind of been a bit of a development, but I've been there since 2009. I still sit as the chair for that committee. I think we have a number of projects that we've been working on that we want to continue to see through, and it's been exciting. And I find it a very fulfilling role. So I've enjoyed being part of that and being able to give back to the CATA, as well as use it to make connections, network, learn a lot, especially on the research side.
Yeah.
So it's been fun.
No, awesome. And I think sort of having that drive, but I mean, 5 years into your career, getting involved and seeing where you could take it, or what getting involved could even look like, and then sort of evolving as you go through your role. And then as the committee develops and moves into sort of education and research, those conferences are so valuable. And I know there's a big one coming up, incorporating WFAT with our American colleagues, and that'll be in May of this year in Winnipeg. And maybe we'll just go there for a little bit. The conferences themselves, a great opportunity to network. Obviously, athletic therapists have a good time when they're there, but the education and the quality and the camaraderie and sort of the passion that pours out, I think, of all those sessions was really a key finding for me in terms of attending those and sort of seeing how those play out. But from behind the scenes for you and putting those together in directing curriculum, or how has that evolved? How are those conferences different, say, now than a few years back? I know we had talked sort of, pushing sort of to more of a themed idea or a themed approach a couple years back, but where have they come from, and where do you feel like they're going currently?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, when I started with education committee, conference actually had its own committee. So it was the National Conference Operating Committee, and that there was no CATA office involvement. It was that group doing it themselves. From that involvement, it actually moved to the office, coordinating with myself from education, from the curriculum standpoint. We had somebody from the research committee that facilitated the research program, and had different stakeholders from the different committees that were part of the conference. And the conference curriculum really went from, I guess, kind of handpicking and just seeing who was interested in being involved in presenting, to it's gotten much bigger and much larger. There's a call, now there's a call for speakers.
Yep.
And so with that call for speakers, we get speakers from all over North America now. We have a number of NATA members that apply. And so it's continually building the quality of programming that we've been able to offer. Same with on the research side. So again, before it was the research committee that took care of the research abstracts and the luncheon and presentations. And the education committee and research committee have kind of amalgamated. And so now education and research takes care of that, both of those. And it's really allowed us to develop even more relationships, to be able to help on the curriculum side, but then also on the research side. Now there's a reciprocity agreement with the NATA that brings their researchers to our conference, and vice versa. It allows our CATA researchers to present at NATA. And so there's really been a big development of our curriculum being more evidence-based and providing definitely more quality presentations. And also trying to develop our own CATA speakers. I think you were one of them that got the opportunity to present with us, and it's developed your career being presenting and whatnot. So that's one of the things we've always prided ourselves as well. But definitely, looking to the future, we're looking at, different agreements with other associations to continue to bring in quality speakers, possibly themes. Like World Federation offers a theme. CATA is looking at possibly going that direction again. It was something that we used to do, moved away from it, and it's something that we may bring back. But definitely it's always evolving and always trying to again, build these relationships with other groups and continually build on, the educational quality we can offer.
Absolutely. And I think a bang up job for anybody who's been would agree. The speakers, the keynote speakers, the breakout sessions, the ability to have some social time as well and build that all together. High quality relationships have formed in those spaces. And from a personal level, having the opportunity to present in Quebec and then in Calgary as well, it adds another layer to all of us, I think, being a presenter, but also listening to other presenters that are our colleagues. I'm a fond memory of presenting and Jamie and Scotty Livingston coming into the room and excuse me, just feeling like I had to elevate my game. These are mentors. These are people that have been in it a long, long time, but at the same time, finishing the presentation and then reflecting with them about the presentation and the material and sitting down and having, dinner together and these kinds of things. So I think those opportunities are great. And I think we could probably spend this entire conversation talking about the value of those conferences and the committees and these kinds of things, but that's not where I'd like to go. I'd like to sort of go back in and through your career and have you share your story, because it's an amazing one. You spent a long, long time at Humber College, and now you're at the Hill Academy. And so there's probably some similarities and some differences in terms of the day-to-day operations, but maybe we'll go back to the start and sort of just where did your thirst for athletic therapy get sparked or start? And then, the transition and your experience at Humber College and what you took away from that and what you feel like you provided to others. I mean, we can take that anywhere we want to go, but where did it begin for you in terms of athletic therapy?
Interestingly enough, I was a little girl watching the Maple Leafs. And I saw Chris Broadhurst on TV and knew that is what I wanted to do. I actually wrote him a letter. Most people write, sports superstars. I wrote him a letter to ask what it's called and how do I get there. And so that's kind of where it started. So that was, young me. Then when I was an athlete, at 16, softball was my sport of choice. And I had shoulder injury, and the physiotherapist that I was seeing said, I can't deal with this. You need to go for surgery. So doctor referrals, everything else. Ended up seeing Dr. Aline, and she's like, you don't need that. You need somebody that can give you a good strengthening, reconditioning program.
Yep.
And she set me up with an athletic therapist at her clinic, which rehabbed my shoulder. And again, I was hooked. And so I did my undergrad at Laurentian. And while I was at Laurentian, I worked with the varsity program there under Wendy Hampson and Sean Sharon.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of people in the CATA world will know Wendy's name, CATA Hall of Fame member and whatnot. And so they mentored me you know, introduced me to the different programs, the steps I needed to take and whatnot. And so when I was finishing my degree, I applied to every school in Canada, you know, got offered Sheridan and York. At York, I was fortunate enough to be offered the advanced standing program at the time. And so, you know, I dove in, and small town girl moved to Toronto.
There you go. A big change.
Oh gosh, I was shell shocked. But yeah, so did my 2 years of AT at York. And then after my exam, I think it was maybe 3 days later, Andrea Prier called me up and asked if I was interested in a position back with the program, which definitely I was. So I took on the role of outside field placement coordinator was my title. And that was coordinating all the first aid shifts at Caledon Ice Sports for everybody, and paid tournaments and different things like that. And then I also had a supplemental role as a TA. So doing the grading and whatnot for the athletic injuries class and athletic therapy. Progressed into teaching those labs. And then a year later, Humber, the head therapist, Lydia, was going on maternity leave. They had hired somebody, but they were offered a different position somewhere else and had accepted that. And so they were kind of, you know, it was a week before varsity training camps opened up and they were in a bind, contacted Andrea at York and said, can you recommend somebody? And she recommended me for the position. So I went, I interviewed, was offered, took that maternity leave with absolutely no expectations because it's a mat leave. From there, they created the assistant position. So when she came back, I moved to the assistant position at Humber. And then her next mat leave, took back over as acting head therapist. And then after that one, she decided to not return to the head therapist position. She also has her osteopathy and pursued that avenue. And so I got to stay in that role. And so sat in that role for 14 years.
And didn't just sit. I think like these are the pieces that we can go off on a lot of different ways here. You held the position, but impact with students. And so just sort of reflecting on your walk, you find a role model, you reach out. So you take this upon yourself to reach out and try to connect. And I like what you do. I think that's what I want to do. I know that's what I want to do. How do I do it? Then you go and find some personal experience with an injury and some therapy and doctors and referrals, and you start to see a little bit of that world. Transition to an undergrad degree where you put in volunteer hours to work with teams. And I think these opportunities are often taken for granted, but also in reflection are huge. To be on the sideline and see the number of thankless hours, countless thankless hours, but at the same time know that you're part of something bigger than yourself. It's service to others, and these are things that carry us forward and through into an AT program, and then have a good enough experience there that you want to give back to that program as well. And I know there's at least one listener currently with us that wants to do the same. You know, you go through a program and you see little gaps, or you see things that work really, really well, or you see yourself fitting in to be able to provide more for the program or provide a different perspective for a program and giving back. And then at the same time, just good, diligent, hard work and recommendations of peers and colleagues that then become, or even professors or teachers that become colleagues. It's a small world. And all of a sudden, here you are filling in for a mat leave. It gradually progresses to a full-time role, and you're in it for a long, long time. And what an impact. Then you have student placements. You have the responsibility of reporting to athletic directors and coaches. So in looking back over your time at Humber, how do you reflect upon that in terms of your growth? Obviously, it was exponential in those number of years, but where do you think you grew the most, or what areas do you feel like you really grew in that role? And either through, you know, not knowing things or resources, or wherever you want to take that as well. I mean, I want you to share this because I think it's really important, especially for our younger listeners, and then for people who are looking to transition or really just trying to explore what is this profession and where can I go with it, or what are people doing with it?
I mean, where did I grow at Humber? I think every aspect of me grew with Humber.
Mhm.
I started there 1 year into certification, and, you know, you feel like you don't know anything being put into this acting head therapist role with a week before training camp opens up, and you need to, feel like you need to prove to everybody that you deserve to be there. To I mean, by the time I finished, when I started, it was one certified therapist and 4 student therapists with a huge athletic program. And when I finished, it was, 2 full-time certified ATs, 5 part-time certified ATs, and I think 10 student therapists and an expanded clinic. So, I mean, just developing the clinic, I constantly grew just with that continual development of making the clinic and the therapy program at Humber better. I think as a person, I grew because I matured from not feeling like you knew anything to having to be a go-to and be a mentor for these students and certified therapists. I think also my approach changed through time, because again, every year is different and everything you deal with is different, and it changes you. And you reflect in how you dealt with one situation in, say your second year. If you're handed a similar situation in your 10th year, you approach it differently, just because of what you've learned and how you've grown. I also, when I started, I wasn't married. I was with my husband now. We were together, but we weren't married. We didn't have kids.
Yeah.
And also through that time at Humber, we got married. I worked with national teams. I had 3 kids during my time at Humber as well. And that changes you also. I kind of went from being the older sister to a lot of the athletes and to being the mom to a lot of the athletes.
That's
so
it. Yeah, so growth and maturity, both, age and then responsibilities too. And I think sort of some of the intensities early on, and I can only speak to my own experiences in this, but sort of the overwhelm, but at the same time wanting to make sure everything is a priority early on, but then sifting as we go through and prioritizing needs, must-haves, and then sort of what can be done at a later date, or I mean, in a management role or a leadership role, what can be assigned so that you can take a little off your plate and you can really focus on that mentorship role, because that education piece and that opportunity to impact essentially everybody that you deal with, from coaches to administration. You're part of administrative detail in terms of how things roll out, how policy and procedure works, as well as advising on those, and at the same time impacting the health and longevity of student athletes plus student therapists. So what an amazing role and an amazing opportunity. And I know a number of students that have come through while you were at Humber and just have had glowing reviews. And so on their behalf, I'll thank you, publicly here. And for me, to be quite honest, we didn't overlap in class, but certainly since then, lots. And you've been nothing but pleasant and very kind and driven and directive in terms of my career, and sort of seeing, what's out there, what's available. And the communication piece has been massive. So thank you for your role within this profession and at Humber. And then there's a transition from Humber over to the Hill Academy, where you are now. For those that aren't aware, what is the Hill Academy? Where is it? And where does the athletic therapy piece fit in there?
Yeah, so the Hill Academy is a private school for grades 5 to PG, so essentially grade 13. It's a school for elite athletes. So we have 3 main sports: hockey, lacrosse, and golf. We also have individual athletes that are attending our school program as well, but they aren't necessarily involved with our school teams. And so elite athletes, they were located in Vaughan, and then in 2020, during the pandemic, they relocated to North Caledon. It's a beautiful campus. It's about 140 acres with a lake and forests and trails, and it actually used to be a Buddhist retreat.
Amazing.
Believe it or not. Yeah. So then there's still footprints of who used to be there, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so that's the Hill Academy. Funny enough, so 2020 started, and I really realized that I was craving a change. And so I guess you would say my mantra for that year was change. The pandemic hit. I thought that might be the change that
the forced change on all of us. Yeah.
Exactly. So we pivoted to home and everything like that. And then in the summer of 2020, one of the owners of the school reached out and contacted me because the school, I live in Orangeville, and the school is about 10 minutes from where I'm located. Beautiful. And funny enough, so the family is a big lacrosse family. And so outside of my job at Humber, I worked a lot of lacrosse, hence the national teams. But I worked Senior A, which is the summer league for the professional players, and the brothers that make up part of this ownership group played on the lacrosse team that I worked for. And so summer 2020, the one reached out and said, we're moving to Caledon. We're close to you. Is there any interest in coming on board? And I thought, we'll listen to what they have to offer, but I have a job where I have pension, I have benefits, I've been there for so long. But they convinced me. Change. Work-life balance, 10 minutes to home versus an hour and 15 one way, with kids that are getting older and more involved in sport and everything else. And so, yeah, they convinced me, and I made the jump. For the month of September, I juggled leaving Humber and starting a therapy program at the Hill during a pandemic, where under my portfolio is all things COVID. Right. So it brought about, an immense new challenge. But it's been exciting. It's been very exciting.
Yeah, well, you manifest the mantra, and here we go. And now you're on former Buddhist ground, and who knows, your manifestation may even continue to evolve. I'm sure it will, as you grow and change and do this. What do you think you take from Humber and apply at the Hill, and what gets left sort of with Humber? I don't mean to put you on the spot in terms of that, but do you feel like, what are the similarities and what are the differences in terms of your role, in terms of going from obviously a collegiate setting, more biologically mature athletes versus high school athletes and younger? Anything that sort of comes to mind in terms of differences or similarities, which you would talk to between the two roles?
Yeah, I would definitely say similarities. They've never had an athletic therapist at the Hill. They've always contracted out a private clinic that has, rented space at the school. And so establishing that therapy presence, that, building a therapy program, that is something that I did at Humber. Mm-hmm. And that is something I'm doing again. Not a lot of people get an opportunity to do it twice. So I can take what I've learned from building that program at Humber. Absolutely. And apply it to the Hill. Yep. I think similarities also, like the athletes at the Hill, they are so driven and so focused on kind of their end goals. Even though they're high school athletes, these kids are like college kids. Just the maturity that they have, the drive that they have, which is amazing to work with. But again, it's causing me to learn a ton because, again, we're dealing with an adolescent population. So certainly injuries are the same, but your approach is a bit different.
And setting you up for in your own walls of your home with your kids in the not too distant future, you have a little bit of foreshadowing probably
Oh
into
gosh.
what's to come in teenage years and these other things of all these things.
Yeah, maybe from the attitudes, the injuries we've already had, we've dealt with a broken ankle and a separated shoulder this year already. So
well, yeah, well, it doesn't get any easier from what I hear, but we'll
no.
leave that side, the parenting side, to others to discuss. I think that's an interesting point. And in Canada, right, in the private school space, there is room for athletic therapy at an academic institution that has a focus on sport. Do you feel like there's space to carve a therapy presence into high schools, into sports a little bit deeper in Ontario, in Canada for that matter? And how do you think we go about pushing that into, developers, owners, school boards, these kinds of things?
I think there's definitely an opportunity. I think we're starting to see that growth. A number of the private high schools, the St. Andrews, the Upper Canada colleges, with the Hill bringing myself on board, Everest just brought an athletic therapist on board as well.
Right.
You're starting to see it more like in the private schools. On the public school side, with Rowan's Law, with a lot of the school boards having rules now, especially with their higher risk sport, you're seeing athletic therapists on the sidelines. But I do think there is room for that athletic therapist to dig deeper and get more involved, because there's different ways, not just from the sideline, the clinical, even being involved in the curriculum. Like some of the things we do at the Hill is we have that opportunity to be involved in the physical education curriculum, because they're learning about concussions, they're learning about nutrition, but then also how that affects injuries and whatnot. So there certainly is that educational component on that side too, that ATs can be involved with. And I think there's definitely opportunities. Since I've become certified, like when I first got certified, only certain school boards had ATs on the sidelines. Now I think the majority of them have ATs. So we're seeing that movement. I think we just need to continue to push, continue to educate. All it takes is, sending proposals to the school board, sending proposals to the schools.
Yeah, and I think those are critical pieces that can start to move and should start to move with people that are interested in those spaces. It takes just reaching out and having a conversation, and then featuring what it is that athletic therapy is and can be. And I think you touched on an amazing point, and you've touched on it a couple of times, just with your natural candor towards like the educational piece, where this could be hybrid, right? Like these roles could be hybrid. I'm sure it is for you. You're not just a therapist that's going to say, oh, your knee hurts, let's do these exercises for your knee. That knee affects well-being. That well-being is affected in the classroom, at home, with relationships, with jobs, with everything else in the totality of that human being. And at the same time, education into the physical education realm in high schools, for example, building in a training program, building in a rehab focus, a human science angle to phys ed and biology, and sort of in this integrated model of learning that a lot of schools are leaning towards now, where questions are getting raised as to like, why do we not know that like breathing is good for us, and like some form of reflection is good for us, and how to do your taxes is really important, and these other things that are sort of starting to move into the school systems. Athletic therapy I see as one of those, where there's a ton of opportunity to utilize skills, not just to tape the ankle, but talk through the importance of what taping an ankle is and how that came about and why that's helpful or hinders or these other things. So what a cool opportunity with the Hill. Do you have opportunity to be sort of more formal in the classroom there? You may have mentioned it, but is this sort of with teams and specifics regarding, warm up and dynamic components of sport?
I'm kind of at the Hill. I'm embedded in, I would say, all aspects,
Beautiful.
right through from guiding their health and safety committee, that all businesses are required to have, to leading their COVID plan, to working as part of the performance team with the strength and conditioning, and, identifying the common themes I see in the athletes and whatnot to help drive those programs, to being a guest speaker in the kinesiology class, to, giving talks with each of the teams. Like it's, it really is wherever the need is. I've kind of been their go-to for all of that. It's actually been quite amazing to see how much they have adopted athletic therapy and a lot of what we do into, almost every area of the school.
That's amazing, and what a cool opportunity. And I think for those of us with big eyes, when we see Jennifer Bell, the head athletic therapist and overseeing rehab at the Hill Academy, longtime head athletic therapist at Humber College, like, I want that job. And I gotta have that job. And like, how do I get it right now? It's not about getting it right now, but it's about laying the foundation, I think, as we go along, and seizing opportunities to have conversations, to reach out to Jennifer Bell when you hear something that she says, just like she did with Chris Broadhurst back in the day, running out on the ice and with the Maple Leafs. And these are not standalone stories, but yours is amazing. And the shares and the development and the trajectory of your career and how many people you've had impact upon and have impacted you in this relatively small profession. I'm quite similar in terms of where things started. Was an email. It was like, how do I get that? Like, I don't even know what that job is, but how do I get it? And how do I find somebody that's doing it so I can have that conversation? And that's sort of the impetus with this podcast, is to create awareness of who is where and who people are, and openness to discuss opportunities and roles and things like this. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your time and sharing your space, and would always love to have you on again as part of sort of a panel in the future, as we've discussed with some other opportunities. Where do you think the profession is going, just to sort of wind this up? What would you say to new therapists or therapists that have been at it a while, or I don't know, any advice you have sort of through your career? You've seen a lot, you've done a lot, wherever you want to take that, just to sort of wrap up for the evening.
I think advice to the new therapists or newer therapists is, definitely don't take the connections you make for granted. Every opportunity I have had is because of a connection I have made at some point earlier in my career. And every single one of those connections has opened a door for me. From being able to be on, like, work with the national teams, to my position at the Hill, to getting the position I had at Humber. It has all been about the connections that I've made. And so, when you're looking at whether it's, somebody puts a call out looking for people to come and help with field work, don't look at it as just, oh, it's field, I'm just going to work this tournament. No, that's an opportunity to meet another therapist in the field that may have an opportunity for you. And so there's always, and not to say that you have to jump at everything that comes available, but think of those as opportunities to make those connections. And then for the therapists that have been around for a while, I would definitely say, always continue to learn, be a lifelong learner, keep an open mind and open heart, allow yourself to grow. Don't be afraid of change, which really, really funny coming from me, because I am the person that does not like change, but, in the last 2 years have, made one of the biggest changes in a person's life. But yeah, don't be afraid of change, and always continue to grow, continue to learn. There's value in the connections you make. Like I said before, like I still learn from the students I work with.
Absolutely.
That's an opportunity for me to learn, because they're learning the new content, the new way of doing things. And just because I've been doing something for 16 years doesn't mean I know everything. And so keep that open mind and know that you can learn something from everybody.
Beautiful, and such an amazing summary. And embracing change and leaning into that change is not easy. Congratulations for your new role, your new-ish role, and for everything you've accomplished in your career and in parenthood and all of the pieces. I think sharing this goes such a long way, Jen, and continuing to learn and being open. These are skills that don't get harnessed necessarily in school, but as we get a little bit older and we lean into these, getting used to things and doing things the way that you've always done things is easy. Doing things a different way or learning something new to challenge that a little bit is difficult, but really shows growth and growth potential and all of these pieces. And you've captured it so well through your career and all of your roles. It's Jennifer Bell. She's with the Hill Academy currently, provincial seats, national teams, teams across the board, mom, partner, all of these things. So many roles that you wear. I'm happy to hear the commute is a lot shorter for you. You can find that little bit of balance, and I'll let you sort of wrap up here just by saying goodnight and thanking you again. But maybe you're just wrapping up on the balance side of things and what you've learned sort of to navigate those pieces. I know it's difficult when we're on the road long hours or can't get home or these kinds of things. What would you advise on that end, and how do you stay balanced? And then you can wrap it up as you wish.
Well, let's just say it took me 16 years to learn that balance piece. Again, another reason why that mantra for change, and one of the reasons for jumping, because this is it's a caring, helping profession, and you can very easily lose yourself in it. There were times where I was burnt out, given the hours and the road, the road trips and the amount of energy we pour ourselves into, the teams, the clinics, everything that we do for our career. And so definitely make sure to carve out time for yourself. Your time is equally as important as your athletes, as your coaches, as everybody you work with. Your family is important. Again, I made this jump because I have young kids and I want to see them play hockey. I get to be a spectator when they're playing hockey and lacrosse, and I don't have to worry about that therapy hat. And it is maybe some of the best hours that I spend at a sport rink. So definitely don't lose yourself in this career, because you're the only person that can help yourself.
Amazing. Great capture. Thank you again for your time this evening. It's session 98 of Let's Chat. We're edging closer to 100, and thank you everybody for listening, for tuning in. Share this one. Don't be shy to reach out to myself, to reach out to Jen, and ask questions, because this is what this is all about. That's what this platform is about. It's about sharing. It's about those connections. It's about creating more connections, more opportunity away from the conferences, so that when we get to the conferences, we can put a face to a name and just continue to drive this profession forward. It has so much to offer, and you have done just about everything within this profession. So thank you again. Good night, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me, James. I really appreciate it.
All righty. Take care. Good night, everybody.
Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com, consult@firststartherapy.com, on Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.